Hello, it's Chris Gio, and welcome to Merchant Method Trend Reports. I am super excited to welcome independent retailers, makers, and small batch manufacturers weekly to get the trends on what's happening in the business. If you are new to trend reports explain patterns or trends by collecting a lot of information. And Merchant Method Trend Reports combine both industry trend with experience-based training so that you can unlock more profit and in fact do it with more ease because it can be easier. This series in February is a four-part series about how to use your business size to your advantage. And again, this is focused specifically for independent retailers and makers, but this information can be scaled to all sizes of business. We've spent January, the last 4 weeks, priming for this topic by giving you some really great foundational and actionable information. So what have we done and what have the trend reports covered? We've covered holiday retail sales, and specifically during the highest volume quarter of the year and highest transaction shopping season of the year, how did brick and mortar retailers sell compared to e-commerce retailers? We walked you through, and I talked you through, and you did this yourself, how to conduct a business review at the end of each quarter and at the end of the year, so you are prepared having recapped your business. We talked through 90-day business planning, how to approach your strategy one cycle at a time to match the fact that retail is cyclical. And lastly, last week, I shared the state of brick and mortar retail. We entered January with announcements of mass retail closures, and I wanted to make sure you understood what drove that and how in ways it relates to you and how it doesn't. And so this four-part series, how to use your size to your advantage, is going to walk you through, number one, business agility and what that looks like for an inventory-based business, what that looks like in retail. Part two is style, selling, and sales. Part three is winning big and when to walk away, because there are times it's okay to walk away. And then week four, part four is responding to small data. We're going to get a little analytical, and I know that you are serious about unlocking that next level of profit, and that requires diving into data, both big data and small data. From a calendar perspective, this week is Retail New Year. I feel like I might be the only one that celebrates it with as much excitement as I do. But for retailers, the fiscal year starts in February, and that started on Sunday. As you know from past trend reports, this year is a 53-week year. So if you didn't sign up for our free retail calendar, sign up. You can click on the link, you can visit the website, and you'll be signing up for trend report bonuses. I will send you the calendar right away. There are two things to know about February, and they are related to shifts in U.S. holidays. So the first shift is for Valentine's Day. We know that it's always February 14th. This year it falls on a Tuesday. Last year it fell on a Sunday. So what does that mean for you? It means that you have a full weekend of selling plus 1 week. Your revenue around any Valentine's Day product or Valentine's Day promotion or messaging, you have more time. President's Day also shifts in the U.S. It remains on a Monday, but this year it's on February 20. Last year it was on the 15th. So those are some good things to know. This calendar shows the shifts in U.S. holidays year over year. So the thing that you should also know about these trend reports is as I report live, I would love questions. So please feel free to send in your questions and I'll answer them at the end of the report. Or if you're not watching this live, send me a question. So let's talk now about what business agility means in retail. We're going to cover three things. The first is what does agile mean? You know, oftentimes when we hear content or hear business jargon, sometimes that jargon isn't even rooted in where the word comes from. So I want to revisit it. I need to do that for myself often. Then we're going to talk about what business agility looks like in action. And then lastly, we'll talk about how to be agile in a retail setting. All right, so I went to Merriam-Webster Dictionary. That's my dictionary of choice from a style perspective. And here's how they define agile. They have two definitions for us. So the first is marked by ready ability to move with quick, easy grace, as in an agile dancer. Their second definition is having a quick, resourceful, and adaptable character, as in an agile mind. So it seems to me, as I revisited these definitions over the weekend, that agile is about being prepared enough that you can move quickly and still move with some grace so that you're not stopping in your tracks and that you can keep moving forward. Business agility, as is defined by hrzone.com, refers to distinct qualities that allow organizations or small businesses to respond rapidly to changes in the internal and external environment without losing momentum or vision. Adaptability, flexibility, and balance are three qualities essential to long-term business agility. That was a dense 2 sentences, but these are my 3 takeaways around what business agility actually is, because I want us to understand it before we talk about why you would even want to be it. Takeaway 1, agility is about having an awareness of your environment, both externally and internally. So having an awareness of your external environment could be knowing what's happening in the industry, knowing what's happening in your product niche, understanding where consumer spending is, consumer confidence, understanding what's happening in your customer trends, even what's happening from a government perspective, federally and locally. It's difficult as small business owners to gain an awareness of what's happening externally because there's so much we're managing in our internal environment. That's why these reports exist, to help you get a sense of that. Internally, understanding what's happening in your internal environment includes things like morale, right? How happy is everyone and motivated is everyone to be there? Do employees, do you feel like your work has a purpose? Revenue, finances, right? The profitability of your square footage and your inventory management. We talked about that a little bit last week, sales per square foot. It's understanding employee performance, and even yourself as a business owner. The second key takeaway is it's an ability to respond appropriately to these changes in a timely manner, right? So you'll hear the phrase, there's no time like the present. The idea is that it is better to respond sooner rather than later. It's not about being reactionary. It's not about responding immediately when there are customers in the store, but doing so in a timely way, because the cycle of retail, even if your products live 6 months, the cycle of retail, capital R retail, is so fast that time is of the essence. And then the third takeaway is maintaining that clear vision so that you can move through this behavior of agility and move through change without losing a lot of momentum, and really without getting so distracted or so hindered by the change that you can't continue to operate in a graceful way. Right, so the 3 takeaways: an awareness, timeliness, and then having a sense or having an anchor so that you can keep moving without getting lost in the forest. So that's agility. And it is definitely a skill, and it needs to be encouraged. And when I say that agility needs to be encouraged, is that there needs to be an environment where being agile is okay, where being agile is rewarded, where the organization or the process or our feelings are not so rigid that we can't change. It has to be okay. And so if what you need is permission to change, give yourself that permission. You need to encourage agility for yourself and for your business. It needs to be developed and conditioned, right? So it takes a lot of practicing. and you're going to learn some skills. Some skills won't even apply to you. Some skills might be easier to pick up than others, but as with any skill, there's a learning curve. So give yourself that opportunity to learn through the process. Like any tool or even a car, the skill needs to be tuned up and it needs to be supplemented. So I often think of when I look at the sticker on my windshield of my car, when is it time for me to go in for a checkup and when do I need to have my oil changed, right? We don't want to be stale. We don't want to be complacent. And in fact, even if we tried to be, the industry wouldn't allow it because it moves so fast. So it's why things like professional development courses exist, why people hire coaches. It's so that the skill doesn't atrophy and that the business doesn't get stale. It's a skill that needs to be used over and over and over again. I put it in the category of business analytics, critical thinking, negotiation, presentation, art, music, writing, confidence. Those are all skills that you just need to practice over and over and over again. That is really kind of my thought around from where you are now to getting to a place of agile performance, kind of what it'll take, and give yourself permission for it to be a little bit rocky. Or even to get back on the horse, right? So my purpose really through these trend reports is to help you engage with your external environment, to help you understand what's happening in the industry, to teach you how to assess your internal environment in a different ways, right? In a few different ways. It's always great to have a fresh perspective. And then also to assign you action steps so that you practice. And I hope that your goal is to get good at being agile because agility is rewarded in your business. I hope that you are ready to roll up your sleeves and practice. And the idea really is, and where my passion lies in these trend reports, is to help you work through the cycle for spring, to work through the cycle in summer, to work through the cycle in fall. New things will come up. Things that you thought were resolved will rear their ugly heads again. But by the time that you get to the holiday season and you start preparing for it in July and August, you're going to be feeling that much more confident because you were encouraged, you developed and conditioned it, you tuned it up, you supplemented it, and so you're ready to take on holiday 2017. All right, so let's explore what agility looks like in action. So there's a lot of cycles around iteration, around process design. I think the simplest cycle is one of launch, test, and then change. You know, it's probably the simplest version of an engineering cycle is launch, test, change. It's simple. The lean startup method, if you're not familiar with the lean startup method, Google lean startup summary. It's a fantastic way of learning how other businesses that may not have inventory in their mix, how they're operating. And I would love for you to draw parallels so that you can borrow upon their methods. The lean startup method suggests that the purpose of a startup is to create a sustainable business. That in fact, it's not actually about selling. It's not about making, it's not about serving customers. Really, I like to think of it as the philosophy of life being about the journey and not the destination. If your business is sustainable, you will be serving customers and you will be making money. As independent retail owners, if you practice this iterative process, you're going to be better equipped to lead it. So I say this next bit with the most sincerity, with the most humility, because I've had to practice it over and over and over again. Sometimes it results in a situation that allowed me to be more graceful, and other times I wasn't as graceful. Don't be precious about your product or your service. Otherwise, you miss the journey of being a merchant. And that journey of a merchant is having interaction with a customer, right? So don't be super precious about the business. Let yourself move through and operate through on the cycle. Again, this idea around the journey, not the destination. And if you didn't know this already, retail in itself is cyclical. If you're selling a non-commodity item, right? So if you are selling something other than a tire or a Band-Aid or milk or a washing machine, if there's any seasonality or trend or style or occasion associated with your product, we're in an industry that is cyclical. So I want you to think through the life cycle of an item, a non-commodity item, right? Hopefully you're thinking of a bell curve. The introduction phase, the growth phase, really the maturation, and then the decline, right? So think through that and know that whether you have a business where the inventory turns so quickly, or you have a business where the inventory only turns 3 times a year, it's still cyclical, and you will be rewarded with this practice of agility. So this process of launch, test, change, you can also think of as doing, assessing, and then iterating. You'll hear me say the word iterate. Iterate quickly. It's a word that I like, and it's something that I challenge myself with, but it basically means changing. So how can you be an agile, independent retailer or an independent maker, someone that has a product-based inventory with a product-based business with inventory? It really starts with understanding where you are in the cycle. And know that if you're looking at operations, if you're looking at your team, if you're looking at your finances, if you're looking at your assortment, you could be at a different point in that phase, and that's okay. I'm going to include a resource from Kanban Tool. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Kanban Tool. They are a workflow and productivity tool. They've got a really great article on how to assess your agility in multiple pieces of your business. Go to merchantmethod.com. It'll be posted at the end of the week under trend reports, and so you can assess yourself there. But really understand where you are in that cycle. You know, are you an established retailer or are you new? Do you really understand truly who your target customer is, or is that customer shifting? How seasonal is your business? How productive are your processes? You can assess in a couple different ways. But along the 3 phases of test is be aware of your environment and be open, be receptive to environmental feedback. You may not always agree with it, but if you're not open to it, you won't get any of the feedback. So be open to it. Externally, know what's happening in the industry. Keep viewing these trend reports. Log on to nationalretailfederation.com. Type in a few things in Google if you want to know. You'll figure out what search patterns are going to get you the information that you find valuable. Understand your business's relationship to the rest of the industry in any way. It could be brick and mortar versus e-commerce, independent business or small business versus large business, niche versus full line, subscription versus one-time purchase, neighborhood versus city. It could be anything, but to have the continuum, something to compare yourself to, is going to actually be very helpful for you. Identify what influences your customers' purchase. And when I talk about that, I'm going to be diving into that more in part 4 of this series, but really understand how your customers influenced when they think about buying from you. And then lastly, learn how upcoming and recently implemented laws might impact the way you run your business, right? Those are some external environmental things you can assess right now. Internally, assess your team's level of performance. Where are they competent? Or who's competent? Or, do you like the level of competency? Assess the level of proficiency and assess the level of expertise. When I think about those three things, competence is the ability to do the job. When I think of proficiency, it's doing the job consistently, correctly, right? Doing the right thing. And then when I think about expertise, or doing things right, excuse me. When I think about proficiency, I think about doing things right. And then when I think about expertise, I think about doing the right thing. You can also think of it as assessing your supervisors, your managers, and then yourself as a leader. Be familiar with your profitability. Get to know the math and get to know the numbers. Set key performance indicators and review them often. What gets measured gets improved. Gauge your morale with your team. Get real with yourself on how you're feeling and what you need, and do that frequently and do it consistently. You know, once a year during annual performance reviews or once a year during team meetings, it may not be enough. And in fact, I don't think it's enough. It's better to have open channels of communication frequently and let the communication flow both ways versus not having those channels and missing an opportunity to address something early on. Change phase. So in the change phase, I want you to think through responding to feedback in a timely manner. So pre-plan some time for you to think through that and to process that. What might that look like? That could look like one day a quarter you are off-site and you're spending all day planning with your partner. It could mean blocks of time in your calendar for white space. Really, it's so important, even if you're not in the business, even if you're not on the floor, it's important to set aside some time so that you can really focus in on this opportunity to think through change. And then schedule consistency. Schedule that time to check in and schedule that time to communicate. Often it's in the form of weekly meetings to review business. Even if it's a meeting with yourself, put the time on your calendar on Sunday or on a Monday to review prior week's results so that you can come up with a strategy or reshape your strategy if needed for the week ahead. Management or employee communication. They don't always have to happen in person, but if they're not, when do you send the email? When do you publish the employee newsletter? Think through when you're scheduling person-to-person communication with your team. Those are some ways that you can help be agile in the change phase. So again, it's about in the launch or pre-launch, and then in the launch or the relaunch phase, maintain your clear vision by visiting, like you really must visit your guiding principles, your business positioning, your brand values consistently because you want to anchor yourself. I review mine every 90 days. I keep a copy of mine so I see it so I don't get lost. And I like to think of that as not being so rigid you can't be agile, but I like to think of it and imagine a balloon that's anchored to a weight, something that you might see at a birthday party, right? The ribbon on the balloon is long enough that you can still see it. It's still a beacon of celebration. It's not hiding, but it moves with the direction of the wind. It moves, here and there, but it doesn't detach. It stays anchored, or you can think of it literally as an anchor on a ship. It's not so rigid. It allows the ship to move with the water, but you don't move super far from center. It's great to review that. So when you're in this launch or relaunch phase, after you've decided how to change, you're not moving so far from your center that you halt business operations or that you're not moving through operating your business with grace and ease. So those are three ways, of the three part phase, how you can move through and work on your agility now. And so remember that you have the knowledge through assessment, through having a relationship with your environment, and that carries with it a lot of potential. but really when you unlock the power is when you take action. So ensure that you are assessing and that you're changing, right? That you're being responsive in a timely manner, and you actually have the space to implement it. And I want you to take action this week. Really assess your business agility. Either Google that tool from Kanban Tools on their blog, or visit the Merchant Method website in the trend reports. It'll get published again at the end of the week so that you can assess how agile you are in different phases of your business, and then make a commitment to do something about it. Make a commitment to practice. We don't have to be good at it right now, but start or supplement your current level of business agility. And then I actually want you to sign up for the business trend reports. You can sign up on Facebook, or you can sign up through the website. And when you do, it's going to give you an opportunity to ask me a question. And I want you to tell me what's holding you back from getting where you are now to where you want to be. And we can brainstorm together what's the one thing that might make you more agile. And then don't forget to tune in every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific for more Merchant Method Trend Reports. Thank you so much. I will see you next week. And next week, we are talking about style, selling, and sales. Thank you. Bye.